As we all know, SteamOS is basically Valve's attempt at making Linux an actual viable option for PC gaming. Now, originally this was of course in response to some concerns that we had about Windows 10. Obviously, at the time we didn't know much about it, and there were rumours circulating about Microsoft really locking down Windows 10 and making it not great for gaming. And Valve's response was to make a more viable system for Linux, so that, you know, you wouldn't be basically forced to use Windows if you want to actually have a easier gaming experience. Now, Ars Technica did a performance test on Windows 10 versus SteamOS. Now, one of the limiting factors of SteamOS is that big releases such as, say, Fallout 4 and Black Ops 3 aren't available on the platform yet. So there's just some games that aren't available. Developers need to actually port their games to SteamOS, which, as I said, is built on Linux-based foundations. Now, Ars Technica's report is really interesting. I will of course link the source in the description below, but I just want to go over some of their findings. Now, the article states, quote, "We finally settled on a couple of mid to late 2014 releases that had SteamOS ports suitable for our tests: Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor and Metro: Last Light Redux. Both are relatively graphically intensive 3D games with built-in benchmarking tools and a variety of quality sliders to play with, including 6-handed presets in Shadow of Mordor's case. For all the gaming benchmarks, we ran each test at least 3 times and took the median number to ensure the results were reliable. And well, the results were rather ugly." And I will be showing an image from Ars Technica's article here. As I said, sources in the description. And as you can see, frame rates are noticeably lower on SteamOS, and even Valve games running on the Source engine didn't fare much better, with every release seeing a significant performance hit when still running on SteamOS. And obviously, this isn't a 100% comprehensive test, but it is troubling to say the least. Now, Ars Technica also said, quote, "Games built from the ground up with OpenGL and Linux in mind might be able to best their Windows counterparts. Similar benchmarking by Phoronix showed Ubuntu 15.04 outclassing Windows 10 when running open source Quake clone OpenArena, for instance. Newer graphics hardware might be better suited to take advantage of high-end OpenGL features, though that new hardware is at least as likely to get more power out of Windows' prevalent DirectX standards as well. Upcoming games that support DirectX 12 and or OpenGL's Vulkan standard could change the performance equation substantial too." And I won't include the image here, but even if you look at their single core benchmarks for integer, floating point and memory, you are still seeing either lower or, in the case of memory, about equal results for SteamOS. In most cases it is lower. The only time where it's is equal is memory in this particular instance. Now, obviously, as Ars Technica rightly pointed out, there are various improvements that could boost SteamOS, and of course, if Valve is actually aware of this, they could work on it, but it seems it's not worth the jump just yet. Hopefully it becomes worth it, because a competition for Windows in terms of gaming would be lovely. Personally, I would stick with what I know, but that's just because I've never used a Linux-based system. I might give it a try if it actually became a bit more viable, but the main thing that puts me off is the latest and greatest games aren't on there, which obviously for someone who is a reviewer, you know, blogger, journalist, whatever the balls you want to call me, it's not good. And the performance hit's definitely not good, so that's definitely something that I want to work on. Obviously, as I said at the start of the video, all this started when it became a little bit worrying that some were speculating that Microsoft was actually going to cut out Valve from this situation, or have their own app store available, and you can only buy certain games through their app store, which obviously would be not good for Valve, given that their main bread and butter is of course Steam, which is of course where this began, and just general concerns about Windows not being great for gaming anymore. And Valve began making SteamOS, the idea of a more open system, which is great, but it sounds like there's still a ways to go, sadly. Thank you very much for watching. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one. I'll see you next time.